Is drinking raw milk safe like RFK Jr. suggests? Can you reduce a glucose spike if you eat your food in, quote-unquote, the right order? I'm registered dietitian Abby Sharp. I host a nutrition myth-busting podcast called Bite Back with Abby Sharp. And those are just some of the questions I tackle with qualified experts on my show. There is so much food misinformation and disinformation out there, and it can feel impossible to know what's real and what's BS. On Bite Back, my goal is to help listeners create a pleasurable relationship with food, their body, and themselves, which in my opinion is the fundamental secret to good health. Listen to Bite Back wherever you get your podcasts.
It is the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom that covers the capital with neither politics nor punditry. It is the Blacklock's reporter. Find it online at blacklocks.ca. Well worth the cost of your subscription. And the managing editor there, Tom Korski, joins us every Wednesday morning at this time to chat about Ottawa's business and how Blacklocks is minding it. Good morning, Tom.
Morning, Mike. Congratulations on the $250,000, by the way. That's serious money. That's federal money. That's to say, wow.
Thank you, Tom. Are you saying maybe perhaps I should send it that way because they might a little help?
No, you'll never see it again. But I'm saying even by Ottawa standards, I mean that's a wow.
It is a pretty big number, and we're pretty pleased with it ourselves. Thank you for that. It's not actually too far from the amount that gets paid, Tom, our president of public health, almost $300,000 a year for that role, and now 5 years and 5 presidents of the Public Health Agency of Canada?
Isn't that something? 5 chief executives in 5 years. 3 of them didn't even fill out their contracts. That's a problem. In any organization, any union, any minor hockey club, that would speak to a degree of disarray, confusion, poor management, you name it. But here we are. The Cabinet has now named the 5th president of the Public Health Agency in the absence of any judicial inquiry into pandemic management, and we must be frank, mismanagement at the agency. We're left with, to date, reports that may tell us why there has been a revolving door at the top. And that included mismanagement of pandemic supplies. Famously, they threw away millions and millions of masks. You remember when masks were at a premium and everyone was upset and the lockdowns? They'd thrown away millions of pieces of medical equipment even months before the pandemic. And they also were responsible for hiring suspected Chinese-Canadian spies at the nation's foremost microbiology lab. These were people who had secret contacts with the Chinese People's Liberation Army bioweapons program. So that may tell us why there is this churning at the very top, but it just doesn't inspire confidence in a public agency.
Public inquiry, you mentioned, Tom. Should we have any confidence? Do you have any confidence that we will ever actually get one?
I do. I think as time goes by, there will be more and more inertia, and Ottawa is the town that invented inertia. But I think there are so many people in the know, and I'm not talking about opposition MPs. I mean the Canadian Medical Association. Their president, in the day, testified at parliamentary hearings that Canada was caught flat-footed. The tragedy was, for all the lives that were ruined, the businesses destroyed, the suffering of the lockdowns, you name it. The tragedy was the health agency thought they were great. In fact, they said in notes that the Prime Minister stated publicly in the day that Canada was the most prepared country among all countries on earth. And these were the guys who couldn't run a mask warehouse or run a basic security system at a foremost microbiology lab. Incredible.
Okay, let's talk Bill 5, Tom, because it moves through our House of Commons, and the idea is that we are going to fast-track these nation-building projects. There's still work to be done, obviously consultations, et cetera, that the Prime Minister says we'll get to this summer. But when that work gets done or begins, is there any danger here that we should be aware of?
MPs see some danger. By the way, that bill will pass the Senate under closure this week. It will pass by Friday. It would be extraordinary if the Senate stood up and said, we're not passing this bill, we have too many questions. They have passed every bill that's been put in front of them, every government bill for 30 years. What is the problem with the bill? This is the bill, as you mentioned, that allows Cabinet, using any criteria it chooses, it's written into the legislation, it's wide open, very subjective, to fast-track any industrial project. The problem is, as MPs have stated, the Bloc Québécois, of all people, have been very strong on this. The difficulty is, this is an invitation to cronyism. Let's be frank. Let's put the cards on the table. There was one Quebec MP said, there will be all kinds of bias, all kinds of arbitrariness, cronyism. Barcelou Debal was the MP, end of quote. He says, we're becoming a banana republic. That's an actual quote. Why is that? Because you're going to have industrial applicants meeting with Cabinet, looking for sweetheart treatment, and it's all going to be behind closed doors. You wouldn't do that at the school board. People, the ratepayers, would be outraged, but that's how we're going to run our G7 country.
And it's not like there's a history of this sort of cronyism, Tom. I mean, come on.
Heaven forbid. No, that would even to suggest the thought, Mike, there's a class of COVID contractor millionaires in this town. Some of them have now been banned for life under Commons motion. Some of them have had their offices raided by the RCMP. The level of sweetheart dealing in this town, if there was ever a judicial inquiry, my 2 cents, I think someone's going to jail, my opinion.
Should we be surprised at all that Canada Post is forecasting annual losses to the tune of $1 billion in the future?
Not anymore. Given the losses they've accounted for even last year, they're getting up to $700, $800 million a year. This is their corporate plan. That sounds dry and boring, but it's not. It's a Titanic hitting an iceberg. They have dogged this corporate plan. This is the first corporate plan the Canada Post Office has tabled in Parliament in a long time. Cabinet refused to table it. And it is jaw-dropping. They are describing an organization they describe as structurally unsound. How did they put it? We've reached a critical point, said the summary of the corporate plan. This is only the material they make public. Cracks are rapidly appearing in the foundation. There is no good news in these reports, but they do predict, beginning in 2027, wait for the $1 billion mark, then $1.1 billion next year, $1.2 billion year after that, $1.3. That's a charge on the taxpayer. They can't raise stamp rates to cover that. That's going right to the general revenue, which is supported by tax dollars.
I can just see those numbers swirling around the drain right now.
It's staggering. Those are staggering losses.
One more I want to touch on before I let you go today, Tom, because this is an issue that we discuss on the show quite frequently, actually, and that is the gun buyback registry. They always sound, such registries, so good on paper, but the thing is, you need people to give you the guns to buy back.
You do, and you know what's striking about this? This is a report that was done based on in-house research by the Privy Council Office, the very top of the federal bureaucracy. They asked gun owners. They spent a bunch of money, and they had focus groups with gun owners. And you know what they've discovered? They are now predicting their program will fail. Think about that. This is supposed to be enforced after Halloween. And this is a buyback compensation for owners. They're not sure. Could be 180,000 assault-style, their phrase, assault-style firearms. Their cost is about $400 million. Budget office says twice as much. When was the last time you heard of a government program where they said, we're heading towards an ice field, we're picking up steam, there's probably every chance we're going to hit an iceberg and sink in a couple of hours? That's what this report says. It says there's a high risk of failure, and the reason is the gun owners don't trust the government anymore. So the obvious question becomes, I'm not a logician, then why?
Tom, if we ask why too many times, we'll go in that same circle around the drain.
I know.
Always appreciate your time. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mike.
Tom Korski, managing editor of the Blacklock's Reporter, the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom that covers our nation's capital without politics or punditry. Find it online, blacklocks.ca. Well worth your subscription. We'll take a break. When we come back, speaking of the price of things, the price of repairs to that covered bridge in Westmont Rose, the historical covered bridge, the beautiful covered bridge. Well, the price tag is going up. It will be discussed at Regional Council tonight. We'll talk about it after this on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.